So today we've got a Dodge 1500 Ram that's got a transmission issue that's a pretty common issue in these older Dodges. So the truck is starting out in second gear automatically. It has a delayed engagement when going into first and drive, and it just doesn't shift correctly. Sometimes it shifts a little hard, soft, it just isn't right. Now manually selecting first gear does work. It just takes a minute and hesitates before it does go lock into gear. And after researching these transmissions, one of the most common causes, especially on this 46 and 47 series transmission, is the governor pressure solenoid and the governor pressure sensor. Those two items define how the vehicle shifts, what gear it starts out in, and all that kind of fun stuff. So it's really a common issue in these older Dodge trucks. So if it's something that maybe yours is doing, this is the solution. Today I'm going to fully diagnose it, make sure that that is the true issue. We're going to inspect the internals while we're in there. We're going to check for common failures that we do see. We're going to adjust the throttle valve cable, because that also controls how the vehicle shifts between gears. We're going to inspect the valve body, make sure everything's all good. We're going to replace the governor pressure sensor and the governor solenoid. And we're going to install a new filter, put in new ATF plus 4, and see if we can fix this transmission before anyone talks about a rebuild. So hopefully we can do this $50 fix, because that's all that kit costs, and save ourselves thousands of dollars. So while we're in there, I'm going to show you a few things that most of the DIY mechanics completely overlook. So welcome back if you've been here before. If not, my name is Craig. This is Papa's Custom Cars. So driving the vehicle down the road, when that governor pressure solenoid and sensor start acting up, this transmission will start to shift very weird. And so you've got to be really, really careful, because if you continue to drive it like that, you can continue to cause premature wear in the transmission and in the end cause complete failure. So you want to pay attention to it at the moment it starts to happen. The fact that when I put it in first gear, it hesitates for a little bit, then it goes into gear and it's a really strong gear. So that tells me it's something besides the clutches or the internals of the transmission. So that's why it's pointing more towards that governor pressure sensor and solenoid, and so that's what we're going to take a look at today, and we're going to replace. Ordered a kit on Amazon. It has mixed reviews, but we're going to go ahead and install it anyway since I've already ordered it, and we're going to see if that fixes our problem. One of the things I will caution is before you start ripping into the transmission, scan for those codes.
The next day,
you can read that code and say, "Oh, there it is. There's that code. I need to definitely check this system before I spend a few $1,000s having someone replace that transmission." Dodge trucks often store that code, so you want to check it. Like again, even if that check engine isn't obvious. So the codes you're going to look for are going to be a P1762, a P1763, a P1757, or a P1764. Those are all related to that governor, the governor solenoid, the governor pressure valve. So those are going to give you that insight that you need into, okay, let's try this. Now, normally I wouldn't say don't throw parts at it, but checking the fluid on this, I don't know how old, when the last time it had a filter change was anyway. So we want to go in there and make sure everything's clean and good, and inspect everything and make sure we don't have any other issues that we see. Garbage in the fluid, we're going to check for that. We're going to go through this thing and we're going to check everything. First, we're going to check the dipstick. Okay, we want to check our fluid, make sure that it's red, make sure that it doesn't have a burnt smell to it. Also, make sure when you are checking your fluid that the vehicle is running, because that's going to give you an accurate reading. If you're not running the car, it's not going to give you an accurate reading. In this case, the fluid was a little bit on the brown side. It wasn't horrible. It didn't have any particles or anything in it. It was just like a dirty red fluid. So that definitely leads us down another road. So hindsight being 2020, I did go online, and like I said, I found that all these kits for these Dodges exist. I mean, I looked up filter and I got a kit, which was kind of interesting. It was about a $40 to $50 price tag, but the kit includes the filter and the gasket, of course. It includes 3 different solenoids, one being the governor pressure solenoid and all that. It also included a spring. So I'm imagining that goes in there. We're going to need to replace that. It also included another little gasket. So I'm imagining whatever's underneath, whatever holds this up, has to do with that gasket. We're going to find that out together. The one thing that I ordered that didn't come in the kit was a drain plug kit. Because I want, if there isn't one in it, I want to make sure there's one in it. That way, in the future, if the fluid ever has to be drained out of this transmission, we're ready to go. Granted, it'll still leave a little bit of fluid in there, but as you all know, when draining transmission fluid, it's a nightmare. So this is going to help the next guy, be it whoever, be it me, be it whoever. So it's going to definitely make this transmission a lot more serviceable, a lot easier without spilling all over the place. So let's get out to the truck and let's start checking out some different parts. First thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and drop that pan and replace all these parts. And then after that, we're going to adjust the TV cable. We're going to inspect everything while we're in there, of course. Naturally, you don't want to do all that without inspecting anything. We're going to install the new gasket, and we're going to install the new drain plug along with all our new parts. And then we're going to adjust that TV cable to make sure it's adjusted properly. But as we go through, we want to do that preventive part and make sure everything's in the right place, in the right and set up right, so that we know that going down the road, this vehicle is going to work well as long as this is our issue. If not, we know we've covered our bases. We've spent, a little bit of our time and about $50 to do this, and as opposed to if it works, we've saved thousands. So let's get to it. Let's get underneath this vehicle and make a giant mess. Hopefully there's a drain plug installed. It appears to me that this transmission's been replaced before or rebuilt. So hopefully that'll save us time.
Okay, so didn't have the initial video, but what you do is you loosen the bolts up, not all the way, just enough to get it to leak out a little bit. That way you've got some drainage before you pour it all over the place. No matter what you do, it seems like it always gets all over the place. And the really bad part was after I did all this, I realized I have a tool that would draw the transmission fluid out of the pan with an air gun. So you actually stick it down the dipstick and suck out the trans fluid. Would have been a lot nicer than doing it this way. But you kind of lower half the pan, let the pan drop and drain some. And then there's always the fact that you're going to have to drop that pan completely. So you just start slowly removing the bolts and let the fluid drain out. And once you've got the majority of the fluid out, you can go ahead and drop the pan the rest of the way. This is a very deep pan, so it still made quite a mess. Especially someone had silicone the heck out of it. So I had to pry this thing out, and in doing so bent the pan and had to straighten the pan out later. So with the pan out, I basically give it a visual inspection, make sure everything's okay. Next, we replace the governor located right here. There's 4 bolts that you take off to drop that little piece of that little metal holder. While that is up, you can remove the governor before you remove the filter. But I chose to go ahead and take the filter down. Make sure you've got a nice clean place to keep your bolts.
So the main solenoids we're after is this one and this one. These 2 here are what control your shifts. The kit came with a bunch more parts, but we don't need to install them. We're just going to worry about what's here. Looks like a 7/16. Yep, sure is. That's interesting because if you go online, it says metric.
Yeah, it does call for a metric, but 7/16 was close enough. And then there are also Torx screws. There are 2 of those, so you've got your 4.
This fourth one doesn't have to come off. This plate is what you're after. T25s.
So we go ahead and remove all those bolts. There's the 4 bolts, and then again the 2 T25s.
So then this whole plate comes off. A little bit of pulling. Whoop. That clip came off and everything. That should never have happened. Interesting. And then this one just pulls right on out like that. But yeah, that should not have just fallen apart. Should have been clipped down.
So again, looking around, make sure everything's okay before I cut loose.
This locks into this like so, and then this one holds that on into there. So let's go get our parts.
So the first thing we do is double check, make sure it's the right fitting, snap it in place. It'll stay there with the wiring. Then we put in our governor solenoid and make sure everything's all nice and clean. You don't want to introduce any dirt into the system at all. So again, you plug it in, and this is the part that was really weird. Is when it came out, it just slipped right on out of there, like there was no connection at all. So I'm almost wondering if it was a bad solenoid or if it was just a bad connection or something that had come loose or wasn't put in right to begin with. And they'd driven it around like that for who knows how long, not realizing that that was the problem. So I put the solenoid back up in place and then put the screws back in. And here's where you see me totally mess this up. See me grabbing that impact? Do not. Again,
No,
do
no,
not use an impact. Now,
never use an impact.
I have to take the whole thing apart. And you'll be able to see the broken bolt here in a second. There it is right there. Snapped clean off. So I ended up taking the whole assembly down. And it made it nice because I was able to go grab a hold of it with a pair of vice grips. Gave me about 2 inches of the nut, and it came loose, mainly because it isn't in there that tight. So again, do not use an impact. Use your hand tools to do it. You can use it taking it out, but you can't use it putting it back in again. So this came out pretty easily, and I ended up having to go over to Lowe's and finding a cap screw to fit it. I did figure out where that gasket went. It went between those 2 assemblies. So thank goodness I had that gasket on hand. So once I replaced the gasket, I put the bolts back in again. All of them but that last one. I'm going to have to go get that one from Lowe's. So I went ahead and then put everything else together because I did have the bolts for everything else. And the only thing I was missing was that one bolt. I should say one cap screw. And it was the Allen head. It wasn't the regular ones, the 7/16 bolts. It was the others. So like I said, no matter which bolt it is, grab your hand tools and do it with your hand tools because the torque specs on these are really, really, really negligible. So putting all the bolts back in again, finger tight, make sure I've got them all in there. And again, there are 5 now that I had to remove to get that broken one out. So I'm going to hand tighten them with the, I'm not tightening them all the way. Learned my lesson the first time. I'm using the lowest setting on the impact, and I'm just snugging them up. Actually, I'm not even snugging them. I'm just running them up, and then I'll go back later with the hand tools and the torque wrench and make sure that I don't over tighten them again and break some more. But yeah, see, we've got our regular hand tools. Make sure that it's all good to go. Last but not least, we got our new bolt. I'm going to put it in place, and our new filter. 2 bolts hold the filter on. Again, I believe it used a T25 also. So you put your new filter in place. Again, don't crank on the bolts. I put them in by hand and then use my ratchet and snugged them up because it doesn't take a lot. So I went and got the replacement bolt now, came back and installed that.
So I put a thin bead of gasket sealer around the gasket. I want to make sure we get a good, nice, good, tight seal. With this gasket material maker, you can actually make the gasket. But I like to use a combination of the gasket and a little bit of sealer to make sure that we have it the way it should be. Okay, now I'm going to go put the governor and everything into the truck.
So now I came back. I'm going to go ahead and torque them in place. They're all 140 inch-pounds. I did do them already in a star pattern to snug everything up. When you first use that gasket cement, you just put them in hand tight, and then you wait an hour and you come back and you torque them to spec. Do not forget to wait that hour to allow that gasket sealer to set correctly. You want to just snug them until it squishes out a little bit. Now, one of the things I did not do here was, from the angle I'm at, I can't see the far end of the pan, and I ended up with that end of the pan squishing out a little bit. And that's why I was saying in that video before, pay attention to that corner, because that's where you're going to run into a problem. That's where it squishes right on out, because there's nothing really holding that corner. Continue tightening them. And by the way, this is the second gasket that I put on.
Okay, we just let the gasket material dry until the morning, and then we fill her up with fluid and cross our fingers, hope everything worked.
Okay, so a day has passed. The gasket has hardened up the way it should. By the way, this is the second time we had to replace the gasket because of the leak. We put in the 6 quarts of transmission fluid. After this, I took it out for a drive. I had all my gears and everything worked the way it was supposed to. So it was really nice to go in there and spend $40 plus tax, I think $50, maybe $53 altogether, and have a working transmission. So it was kind of nice to see that everything came together. So again, you taking that little bit of time and doing a little bit of research, you can find the issue and fix the transmission, hopefully, for as cheap as I did. It has been a couple weeks since I've done this video, and I can tell you the transmission is working great. A couple of harsh shifts, but I had to add a half a quart to it, and that smoothed that out. So again, a few dollars can save you a whole lot of trouble in the long run. So with that, make sure you all share, like, and subscribe. Thanks, you guys, for watching this long, and I will see you in the next